The command structure. So, we have the basic iOS command structure. So, the basic iOS command structure is a Cisco iOS device supports many commands. Each iOS command has a specific format or syntax and can only be executed in the appropriate mode. The general syntax for a command is the command followed by an approximate keyword and arguments. Keyword is a specific parameter defined in the operating system, while the argument is not a predefined, a value or variable defined by the user. The iOS command syntax. So, a command might require one or more arguments to determine the keywords and arguments required for a command. Refer to the command syntax. The syntax provides the pattern or format that must be used when entering a command. As identified in the table, in the figure, boldface can indicate commands and keywords that are entered as shown. Italic text indicates an argument for which the user provides the value. For instance, the syntax for using description command is description string. The argument is a string value provided by the user. The description command is typically used to identify the purpose of an interface. For an example, entering the command description connects to the main headquarter office switch. Describe where the other device at the end of the connection. The iOS help features. The iOS has two forms of help available: the context-sensitive help and the command syntax check. Context-sensitive help enables you to quickly find which commands are available in each command mode, which command starts with the specific characters or group of characters, and which arguments and keywords are available to particular commands. To access context-sensitive help, simply enter a question mark at the CLI. Command syntax checks verifies that the valid command was entered by the user. When a command is entered, the command line interpreter evaluates the command from left to right. If the interpreter understands the command, the requested action is executed, and the CLI returns to the approximate prompt. However, if the interpreter cannot understand the command being entered, it will provide feedback describing what is wrong with the command. Hotkeys and shortcuts. The iOS CLI provides hotkeys and shortcuts to make configuring, monitoring, and troubleshooting easier, as shown in the figure. Commands and keywords can be shortened to minimum number of characters that identify a unique selection. For example, the configure command can be shortened to conf or the conf because configure is the only command that begins with the conf. An even shorter version of con will not work because more than one command begins with con. Keywords can also be shortened. So, secure device access. The use of quick or easy guessed password continues to be a security issue in many facets of the business world. Network devices, including home wireless routers, should always have passwords configured to limit administrative access. Cisco iOS can be configured to use hierarchical mode password to allow different access privilege to a network device. So, configure password. The most important password to configure is access to privilege exec mode. To secure the exec access, the console port must be configured. Enter line console configuration mode using the line console 0 global configuration command. The 0 is used to represent the first console interface, and it's most cases only. So next, specify the exec mode user exec mode password using password command. Finally, enable user exec access using the login command. Console access will now require password before gaining the access to the user exec mode. Encrypt passwords. The startup config and the running config files display most password in plain text. This is a security threat since anyone can see the password used if they have access to these files. To encrypt password, use the service password encryption global config command. The command applies weak encryption to all unencrypted passwords. This encryption applies only to passwords in the configuration file, not not to passwords as they are sent over the network. Banner messages. Uh, Although requiring password is one way to keep unauthorized personnel out of the network, it is vital to provide method for declaring that only authorized personnel should attempt to gain entry into the device. To do this, send the banner to the device output. Banner can be an important part of the legal process in the event that someone is prosecuted for breaking into a device. Some legal systems do not allow prosecution or even the monitoring of user unless notification is invisible. Or unless notification is visible. Save the running configuration file. Uh, there are two system files that stores the device configuration, the startup config and the running config. In the startup config, the file stored in the non-volatile random access memory or the NVRAM that contains all the commands that will use the device upon startup or reboot. The NVRAM does not lose its contents when the device is powered off. Running config, in the other hand, is the file storage random access memory that reflects current configuration. Modifying a running configuration access the operation of a Cisco device immediately. RAM is volatile memory. It loses all of the content when the device is powered off or restarted. Alter the running configuration. Uh, if changes made to the running configuration do not have the desired effect and the running config has not yet not yet been saved, you can restore the device its previous configuration by removing the change command and individually reload the device using the reload privilege exec mode command to restore the startup config. The capture configuration to a text file. Configuration file can also be saved to and archived to a text document. This sequence of steps ensures that working copy of the configuration file is available for editing or reuse later. IP addresses. The use of IP addresses is the primary means of enabling device to locate one another and establish end-to-end communication on the internet. Each end devices on the network must be configured with an IP address. Example of end devices are the structure of an IPv4 address is called dotted decimal notation and is represented by 4 decimal number between 0 and 255. The IPv4 addresses are assigned to individual devices connected to a network. Interface and ports. Network communication dependent and end user interface. Networking device interfaces and the cables that connect them. Each physical interface has specification or standards that define it. A cable connection to the interface must be designed to match the physical standards of the interface. Types of network media include twisted pair copper cables, fiber optic cables, and the coaxial cables or wireless as shown. And different types of network media have different features and benefit. Distance, the media can successfully carry signal. Environment in which the media is to be installed, and the amount of data and the speed which it is most transmitted, and the cost of the media and installation. So that's it for the chapter 2 summary, and thank you. So hi guys, we're back with for this video, and for this video we're going to summarize this given chapter, which is the chapter number 2, configure a network. So let's start. So for the iOS bootcamp, so we have the operating system. So the operating systems are all end devices and network devices required an operating system or the OS. The portion on the OS that interacts directly with the computer hardware is known as the kernel. The portion that interfaces with the application and the user is known as the shell. The user can interact with the shell using a command line interface or the CLI, a graphical user interface, the GUI. So when using a CLI, the user interacts directly with the system in a text-based environment by entering commands on the keyboard at the command prompt. The system executes the command after often providing textual output. The CLI requires very little overhead to operate. However, it does require that the user have knowledge of the underlying structure that controls the system. So a GUI interface such as Windows OS X, Apple iOS, or Android allows the user to interact with the system using environment of the graphical icon, menus, and windows. The GUI example is more user-friendly and requires less knowledge of the underlying command structures that controls the system. For this reason, many individuals rely on GUI environments. So for the purpose of the OS, network operating systems are similar to a PC operating system. Through a GUI, a PC operating system enables users to use a mouse to make selections and run programs. Enter text and text-based commands. View output on the monitor. So a CLI-based network operating system, like the Cisco iOS on the switch or router, enables network technician to use keyboard to run CLI-based network programs, use a keyboard to enter text and text-based commands, or view output on the monitor. So Cisco networking device run particular versions of the Cisco iOS. This version is independent on the type of device being used and the required features. While all devices come with the default iOS and feature set, it is possible to upgrade the iOS version or the feature set to obtain additional capabilities. So for the Cisco iOS access, we have the access methods. A Cisco iOS which can be implemented with no configuration and still switch data between the connected devices by connecting two PCs to a switch. Those PCs will instantly have connectivity with one another. Even though a Cisco switch will function immediately, configuring initial settings are recommended best practice. There are several ways to access the CLI environment and configure the device. The most common methods are the console secure shell or the SSH and telnet. So console is a physical management port that provides out of band access to a Cisco device. Out of band access refers to access via a dedicated management channel that is used for device maintenance purposes only. And SSH is a method for remotely establishing a network secure CLI connection through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike a console connection, SSH connections requires active networking service on the device including an active interface configured with an address. A telnet is a unsecured method of remotely establishing a CLI session through a virtual interface over a network. Unlike SSH, telnet does not provide secure encrypted connection. User authentication passwords and commands are sent over the network in plain text. So for the terminal emulation programs, there are a number of excellent terminal emulation programs available for connecting a network device either by a serial connection over a console port via SSH or telnet connection. Some of this includes the PATI, Term, Secure CRT, the OSX terminal. So for the navigate the iOS, Cisco iOS modes of operation. So to initially configure a Cisco device, a console connection must be established. Once console in a network technician will have to navigate through various commands modes on the iOS CLI. The Cisco iOS modes are hierarchical structured and are quite similar for both switches and routers. For the primary command mode, uh, as a security feature, the Cisco iOS software separates management access into the following commands mode. The user exec mode and the privilege exec mode. So for the user exec mode, this mode has limited capabilities but is useful for basic operation. It allows only a limited number of basic monitoring commands but does not allow the execution of any commands that might change the configuration of the device. While the privilege exec mode is the one that execute configuration command. A network administration must access privilege exec mode. Higher configuration mode like global configuration mode can only be reached from privilege exec mode. And this mode can be identified by the prompt ending with the number sign or the sharp symbol. Configuration command modes. So to configure device, the user must enable or enter the global configuration mode, which is commonly called the global config mode. From the global config mode, CLI configuration changes are made that affect the operation of the device as whole. Global configuration mode is identified as a prompt that ends with a config after the device name, such as the switch and the config sharp. Global configuration mode is an access before other specific configuration mode. From global config mode, the user can enter different sub-configuration modes. Each of these models allow the configuration of the particular part or function of the iOS device. Two common sub-configuration modes include the line configuration mode and the interface configuration mode. The line configuration mode is used to configure console, SSH, telnet, or AUX access, while interface configuration mode is used to configure a switch port or router network interface. Navigate between iOS modes. Various commands are used to move in the move and out commands prompt. To move from user exec mode to privilege exec mode, use the enable command. Use the disable privilege exec mode command to return to user exec mode.